Chairman of the Technical Conference Committee, Mr. Moise Remanji, and members of the committee. Distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen, Aiboan and a very good evening. It's indeed an honor and privilege to have been invited here today as the keynote speaker on the occasion of the 40th National Conference of the Institute of Chartered Accountants. It's an honor and privilege for many reasons. First, that this august institution, which celebrates its 60th anniversary this year, has been the foundation of corporate governance, corporate management, and has produced some of the greatest business leaders of this country over the years. Second, it also gives me great pride, or personal pride may I say, to be here today because my own father was the Auditor General of Sri Lanka and a council member during the period 1970 to 1983. So I grew up admiring, respecting, and being continuously taught by this great profession. Following my father's advice, I didn't become an accountant, but became an engineer instead. So here we are today, an engineer and a room full of chartered accountants trying to find our MOJO. What are the odds that we can do that? Well, let's try. If not, we will rely on the cocktails at the end of the evening to bring out that MOJO. Over the next few days, I see a galaxy of speakers far more competent than myself to speak about finding and propagating MOJO. And indeed, I must congratulate Moise and his committee for having brought to the fore this very interesting and soul-searching topic. In fact, over the last few days when I was reflecting on my capability or otherwise to address you on this topic, it taught me a lot. It brought out questions in my mind as to whether, as a person who has led teams, led organizations, whether I have done enough to generate MOJO in all those whom I work with. And I believe this is what we need to do, to generate moments of overwhelming joy in everybody we interact with. We have our peers, we have our superiors, we have our teams, and looking beyond every single person. Today, driving from Colombo through the traffic, starting with my chauffeur who got me here on time, the security guard who patted me down very politely, everyone who greeted me, the steward who offered me a drink. These are all people who deserve moments of overwhelming joy. And I think as leaders, and I believe all of us here are leaders in our own right. We may lead large organizations, we may lead small teams, we may lead families, but at the end of the day, our mission should be to create these moments of joy. And through the reflection that I went through over the last few days, I certainly felt humbled. I certainly felt inadequate in terms of what I personally have done to create MOJO. And I think that's a reflection we can all go through from time to time. So what is the leader's calling? More about igniting MOJO in the others, I believe, and less about reflecting on our own MOJO. Because we are truly at the top of the pyramid, whether it be the socio-economic pyramid or the pyramid of professional and academic achievement. We are at the top. We are those who have been privileged. And there are millions and millions of people who have not been as privileged as us. And today, while we try to find our MOJO, I believe that the calling of the leader is to think even more about the MOJO of others. So our mission as leaders, if we are to deliver effective leadership to our organizations, should follow the belief that a core function of effective leadership is cultivating MOJO. And I strongly believe that this is a foundation of sustainable and high-performing organizations. Those organizations which are vibrant, which echo the MOJO, the excitement, the passion of every single employee, with strong sense of purpose, will be those organizations that are sustainable and are highly effective. In fact, I believe that level 5 leaders find their own MOJO from igniting the MOJO in others. And this solves the equation that while we are assigned the task of building MOJO for everyone who works with us, if we make that our own MOJO, and we find that creating MOJO in others in fact ignites MOJO in ourselves, then we have an organization which propels forward with motivation and positive energy. Because in fact, like I said, since we are all leaders in our own right, and we would have leaders above us and we will have leaders below us. And if everyone just worries about creating MOJO, creating passion, creating excitement, giving that spark of magic and innovation to everyone in their team, and their boss does likewise, then we will have an organizational structure which is built on motivation and forward propulsion. So what is MOJO? And what is this MOJO that we need to ignite? Very simply, I believe that people are mobilized, people are motivated, people stand up and say, I'm excited when they see opportunity. And this opportunity gives them hope, aspiration, and the determination to achieve. And as leaders of businesses, wherever in the business we are, if we can create those opportunities, if we can open those doors, and trigger that sense of excitement and desire to achieve in every single member of our organizations, then we have organizations which are infused top to bottom with MOJO. Once ignited, MOJO needs to be sustained. And I believe that MOJO will be sustained if our people see purpose in what they are doing. If the most menial of tasks has meaning, and as leaders, if we give the most menial of tasks in our organizations, in our ecosystems, in our society, we give it meaning and gratitude, then everyone would have purpose. No one would feel that the job they're doing is useless. And how many times, ladies and gentlemen, have we acknowledged those who carry out those menial tasks, routine tasks, standard tasks, day in, day out? I believe we are all guilty. I certainly am very guilty of not taking that extra minute to say thank you, to say you have done a wonderful job. That if you had not done this job, my day would not have been as good as it has turned out to be. Give that purpose, give that appreciation and gratitude for the smallest of tasks. Because we certainly look for that from our superiors. And at the top of the pyramid, we would complain if at the board meeting your hard work is not acknowledged. But at the same time, do we realize or do we acknowledge that we have not acknowledged the doorman who has kept the door open for us when we went into that boardroom? So these are, I think, some fundamentals that we need to acknowledge, we need to learn, and we need to embed in the culture and the DNA of our organizations. Moving on to professionals such as ourselves, what are we most proud of? We are proud of our competence. We want to use everything we know, we want to use the tools we know to use, and we want to be acknowledged for having used our competence. We like to be told, you know your job, or you did a very good job, and we want pride in work. Let's make sure that we share this with everyone around us. So far, I have spoken about the internality of what I would call a leadership challenge. And everyone here, whether at the end of their careers, or post-career, or at the beginning of their careers, would face both challenges. The internality, which is in fact about being accountable to your boss or your superior, which is a one-dimensional challenge. You just have to deliver. It's uncompromising, there are no excuses, and if you are the professional that you would like to be, you will deliver in a single-dimensioned commitment to performance. But to your team, you need to be responsible. And this, I believe, is the difference between accountability and responsibility. Accountability is single dimension, black and white, you have to deliver your results. Responsibility is about caring. Responsibility is about giving that purpose, that motivation, and that compassion to everybody who works with you. And if we were to replicate this model up and down our organizations, where every leader, every manager is responsible for his or her team and accountable to his or her boss, then we can replicate this unit throughout the organization, and you will have both a high-achieving organization and a caring organization full of optimism, of compassion, of motivation, and of MOJO. But as we go up the organization and to the upper echelons of leadership, I believe that the externality becomes more important. It becomes more of a challenge to manage the world outside than to manage the inside. And the quotient of externality management increases as you go up the organizational pyramid. I believe that the CEO is, in fact, the certainty enabling officer of an organization, not the chief entertainment officer, or the chief energy officer, or the chief enthusiasm officer. Because indeed, it is the CEO who needs to ultimately convert that dark cloud of the external environment into the precise and well-defined certainty which he or she presents to his or her teams. And this externality, ladies and gentlemen, if solved by leaders, if the leaders are capable of converting this externality of uncertainty into certainty, it provides a fertile environment for MOJO to flourish. Because then, and only then, can every member of the organization have the confidence, freedom, and innovative energy to move forward with MOJO. So if we were to ignite MOJO through what we would call exponential times, and your president just outlined the fact that technology transformation, the waves of change, are going to be the single most difficult challenge, or I would say greatest opportunity before us in the years ahead. And it's these times of change that we call exponential times, because the rate of change is not linear, it is exponential. And some of the externalities that we as leaders have to face, externalities which are diverse, which are aggressive, which may seem challenging and pervading in their truest sense, would include technology and the Industrial Revolution 4.0, the evolving consumer around us and the evolving markets around us, the economy and the nation, just to name a few. And I believe it's these three that probably occupy our minds the most. But there are many others in terms of those threatening, challenging, aggressive externalities which we need to decipher and contain and bring down into defined problems for our teams to solve. So moving on to the first of these externalities of the Industrial Revolution 4.0, which I believe can redefine the power of human beings. I take this positively because some may say that it would overpower the human being. But I believe that used correctly, used astutely, the IR 4.0 will increase the power of human beings. Some of these technologies are the Internet of Things, or the sensors which will be embedded everywhere across our ecosystem. Artificial intelligence, robotics, blockchain, 5G, and of course, cloud computing. And in this world, if you were to set out to find your mojo, I think we need to realize that somebody has already found our mojo. Because the digital environment has and will constantly align to the true north of individuals. Everything you do today in the digital world has been logged with a digital footprint. So meet your digital twin, who is powered by artificial intelligence and behavioral analytics. The IR4 technologies of today would have built, even today, and more so tomorrow, would have built your digital twin. Your digital twin knows exactly how you would react to a vast number of situations. The digital twin would know what your tastes and preferences are. The digital twin would know what you do when you're completely alone in the digital world. The digital twin will know what movies you like to watch, which books you like to read, and which jokes you forward to your friends, etc., etc. And this digital twin might perversely know more about you than yourself. Therefore, in this IR4 world, or a 4.0 world, we have to hope that while many aspects of what we assume to be the domain of humanity will be passed on to technology, that in parallel, the fundamental driver of change and disruption is a transition to a globalized and connected view of people, machines, information, knowledge, and organizations. In other words, that those islands of competence and those islands of knowledge would now become connected and shared, and therefore that we would approximate asymptotically to a more equal world. And that is a nice feeling to have at the end of this great revolution which is before us. These exponential times will therefore continuously challenge the relevance of people and their competence. And it kind of undoes what I spoke about at the beginning of this presentation, that people need purpose. But what if the work that they're doing is now taken over by machines? The IR4 will redefine the purpose and mojo of people. And it's up to us as leaders who understand this revolution and evolution, who understand what's going on around us and the changes that are being brought upon us, to reinvent work and the purpose of our people. Because if we leave that too late, we will find that we would have got the equation around the DNA of our organizations very wrong. This DNA will need to change continuously at a faster and faster rate. And the DNA is about your mix of human beings and machines. And which tasks will be done by human beings and which tasks will be done by machines. And how fast can you transition these tasks between humans and machines? Because if we don't perfect this and enable our people to have purpose and continuing excitement and value for the work that they do, on the backdrop of these exponential times, we would have let work be destroyed, purpose be destroyed by evolving technology revolutions. So reinventing work and its purpose would involve automation and mechanization through IR4, leading to what I would call work 4.0, and therefore a workforce 4.0, a team that is capable of making the most of Industrial Revolution 4.0 while having the motivation and the mojo and the value for what they are doing. And here we need to call upon government to bring in the required reforms, bring in the required impetus for skills re-engineering, and also the required impetus for worker welfare, which will provide that cushion of assurance while people reinvent themselves towards Industrial Revolution 4.0. And of course, MOJO at work, the Google offices, lots of coffee and donuts, agile workplaces and agile ways of work, which are all before us. And the challenge to us would be not to restrict these agile ways of working and the concepts of Workplace 4.0 to the top of the pyramid, but to find a way to translate these phenomena throughout the workforce of our organizations. Next, we move on to the consumer. And it is indeed a challenge in this 4.0 world to read the mojo of our consumer. Why do we need to read the mojo of our consumer? If we do not know what excites our consumer, what is the magic which motivates our consumer, we in our organizations will become irrelevant. So while the digital world, in particular digitization and IR 4.0, digital lifestyles, disruption, social networks will influence and continue to prove to be an evolving influence on the consumer. The consumers themselves will go through a metamorphosis in terms of the priorities that they embed in their value systems. They might move from brand loyalty to being insistent on ethically produced products, just for example. They might be more influenced by packaging and bundling. They might be more influenced by the convenience of consumption, of circular economies. They might be influenced by the source and origin of goods. And of course, they would be influenced by price. So aligning product, channel, and communication with consumer motivation is going to be a very dynamic challenge, unlike in the past. So businesses find their mojo, I believe, when they are strongly aligned to these customer value expectations. And I have found it imperative and extraordinarily valuable to continuously ask myself this question and to ask the entire organization every 6 months or every quarter, what business are we in? Because if you get your business definition right and you keep changing this business definition, you provide mojo. Your business, the walls, the building, the people are the same, but the definition of your business is changing. You don't need to create something new. It's not a new product. It's a new way of looking at how your consumer sees your business. And over the years, the igniting or death of business mojo has been studied by some of these great big names. Starting with Kodak, the famous example. Kodak did not realize, I believe, that the experience that they were selling to their customer was not a film roll, but the ability to flick through a photo album and enjoy memories. When there was another device that came on the scene which could provide that same experience of flipping through and recollecting memories, a tablet, consumers moved and Kodak was left to bankruptcy. Now if Kodak had understood this mojo of the consumer, I believe that Kodak could have been the first producer of a tablet. Nokia and BlackBerry simply ignored the fact that consumers wanted to use apps from an app store and that Android and Apple operating systems were going to dominate the world. Domino's, there's a success story, propelled their share price by 20 times simply by redefining their business from being a pizza company to being a technology company. They converted every single process from brick and mortar to digital. They stopped opening stores and they increased their availability to a nationwide footprint while having the cleverest of apps, ordering mechanisms, logistics, drones delivering pizzas, etc. Amazon transformed every cost center into a profit center. Amazon built its data centers to support e-commerce, and that was the birth of AWS, one of the largest cloud providers in the world. Likewise, they understood, ahead of their incumbent competition, that the consumer's MOJO in reading printed material was changing, and that they would like to do that on a tablet. So was born the Kindle. So was born Amazon, e-commerce and bookstores. Today, Amazon has come all the way back to open its own physical bookstores, just to add on that final bit of experience to their digital product. Microsoft, again, read the enterprise consumer's MOJO of moving to the cloud. Late, but not too late. Today, the most valuable company on this earth. And Parker, last but not least, a story which has inspired me from the day I did my MBA, where Parker, through its toughest of times, realized that it was not in the business of making pens, but in the business of making gifts. And that the MOJO of their consumer was to buy Parker as a gift. So if we were to continuously disturb our certainty, and this goes against my earlier proposition that we should provide certainty to our people. Yes, we should. But at the same time, I think we need to encourage our people, and as leaders we need to encourage ourselves to move from comfort to restlessness, from good to great, and from excellent to exceptional. And that challenging your certainty incessantly, all the time, being restless, being trying to open new doors, will give us the MOJO as well as prevent our businesses becoming archaic and irrelevant in the face of the changing world. We talk about growth, and many complain of slow economic growth, and we wait rather than drive. And this is an externality that we need to take into our own hands. There's no denying that business growth comes from economic growth, but equally, business growth will drive economic growth. And as business leaders, wherever we are in our organizations, I believe that we need to be committed, not to wait for economic growth to come to us, but to create that growth ahead. In Sri Lanka today, we face the middle income trap, a growth inertia which keeps us in the 3 to 5% GDP growth range. Also, we are today the third slowest growing economy in South Asia. And by the end of this year, we may even be the second slowest growing nation. But that is a challenge that we should take with positivity as opposed to despondence, with energy as opposed to inertia, with a sense of taking greater risks instead of being dormant, and with empathy for all around us, businesses large and small, and government itself, versus the sense of apathy which takes us nowhere. And indeed, as positivity engenders passion in others around us, we as business leaders, I believe, can ignite and spread a nation's MOJO. If we are positive, if we take the challenges before us with a positive mindset and a determination, that will pervade to our home and our organizations, and from there on to our nation and society at large. And if we are to truly elevate the MOJO of our nation, then we need to address this problem of disparity and asymmetry. Because while we at the top of the pyramid would account for a significantly large proportion of income and wealth in this country, the majority of our population has to share the minority and the rest. Now this is not a sustainable equation, and it certainly will not enable MOJO to be created at the level of a nation. Because as I said earlier, MOJO is about opportunity. MOJO is about hope. MOJO is about aspiration. MOJO is about seeing that light at the end of the tunnel in your life, which enables you to do better tomorrow, the day after. And if we give that opportunity to every citizen in this country, and we certainly have the power, being at the top of our economy in the private sector, if we can give every citizen in this country that power to better themselves, grow themselves, learn more, earn more, and grow the economy within their homes, then I think we would have a nation which is full of happier people, people with MOJO. And that brings me to the MOJO of inclusion, making the opportunity to participate in the great future we see before us available and affordable to as many as possible. Let us not keep what we have at the top of the pyramid to ourselves, but use our skills, use our MOJO, use the technology and the revolution of IR 4.0 before us to enable our entire population to participate in the economy of the future. And this, ladies and gentlemen, could be called a form of socialism, novo socialism, or what I would call a nutana samasamaja. But a more palatable term might be inclusive capitalism. Either way, it means that every step we take with courage, we take with a sense of growing, of improving, of expanding, but we commit ourselves to carry the nation along with us. So in this developing world, if we want to be sustainable in leadership, if we want to establish sustainable MOJO, sustainable excitement, then I believe that we should align with the purpose of bridging this divide. First, we must accept the fact that there is a divide. It's easy to ignore it. And then we must make the business of creating a more equal world our business, and thereby spawn a socio-cultural trust to bridge the socio-economic divide in our nation. And that also brings out in us the ability to derive MOJO from contributing positively to the lives of others. And I know many of us who are in the service industry do enjoy every single moment of MOJO when we make a customer happy. Making a customer happy is compassion with passion. Likewise, can we make every business in this country happy, across all provinces of this country? And can we translate that to our own personal MOJO? And can we truly believe that this aligns with our inner compass and aligns our life's journey with this true north of creating opportunity, excitement, and MOJO for 20 million people? Aligning our own compass is not about individualistic MOJO. And indeed, I believe that in the pursuit of MOJO, in the pursuit of happiness, in the pursuit of excitement, it is tempting to ignore everybody else. But I do not believe this is sustainable, because we live in an era of the collective, defined by connected people, connected organizations, a connected world. Collaboration, power of ecosystems, networks of influence, and as I said, connected everything dominates the fabric of interpersonal and interorganizational interactions and ecosystems. So we must truly be careful of not being individually brilliant, but collectively destructive. And that, I believe, leads to the importance of teamwork. Celebrate diversity. Surround yourselves with people very different to yourself. Surround yourselves with people who can add excitement to your life through the very root of diversity and difference. Difference in culture, difference in belief, difference in capabilities. And throughout my career, I have marveled at the game of rugby, where you have a very diverse set of 15 individuals who have very diverse skills, but they all coalesce, and each of their true north adds constructively towards the true north of winning the game. And if a rugby team comprised of 15 identical people, of identical shape and size and identical speed and stamina, you would not have the successful rugby team that is required to win and be sustainable. I cannot help repeating the importance of the positivity that teamwork can also engender in us. Negativity and fear are truly the thieves of MOJO. So I think we must all look inside ourselves, and every time we have a negative thought, that's the first task to do, eliminate it in order for MOJO to appear. Let's also look back with gratitude and appreciation, because all of us have been given an opportunity somewhere down the line. And that is when you first found your MOJO. From time to time we forget our MOJO. It gets rusty. We look for a new opportunity. And every time we do have MOJO and we are excited, we must acknowledge that somebody somewhere has given you an opportunity. Someone has placed trust in you to do your best. Someone has given you that courage to move forward and deliver to your best. And therefore, I think it is our duty to pay it forward, to create opportunity for others, to give trust, to empower, and spread those moments of overwhelming joy to as many people as possible. And this evening, I am indeed indebted to the Council for having invited me here, and it has been a privilege and an honor, and I wish you all as many moments of joy as you can extract throughout the future. Thank you.
The rat race that we constantly battle with. The presentations, the reviews, the Excel sheets, the PowerPoints, the monthly performance reviews, the quarterly reporting, etc., etc. And what we figured is this daily routine, this rat race, it literally saps the life, the purpose and the passion out of our work. What are we really here to do in our jobs, in our businesses that we lead? Is it to go through this daily rat race, or is it something beyond that? And the whole lack of passion and purpose that arises as a result of this is why we came up with the term, or rather the theme, Finding Your MOJO, a journey of self-discovery. And what we particularly liked about this whole tagline, Finding Your MOJO, is that it leaves it to your imagination as to what it means, what it stands for. Of course, leaves it to your imagination with a positive connotation otherwise. And that's where we go to the next segment of Finding Your MOJO, the MOJO within the businesses and the organizations that we are part of, where it's not merely about the daily rat race that I mentioned at the beginning, but it's also about finding the enterprising magic, the little spark in our work, in our job descriptions, which helps us fall back in love again with our jobs. And that's the second segment of the MOJO in the overall theme of Finding Your MOJO. And once you cover these two, the self and the first level of extension, which is the businesses and the professional lives that we're part of, what's next? Which is, of course, the MOJO of the nation, the 21 million strong MOJO. And in that segment, what we're bringing to the whole conference, the conversation, is basically talk of this very unique characteristic that this country does enjoy. A history of prosperity, a history of harmony, and a history of good progress, which somehow in the last few decades we have perhaps lost. And at the conference, in the next 1.5 days, we will also have sessions which will talk of how we can once again regain our mojo as a nation. So ladies and gentlemen, in the next 1.5 days, the lineup of sessions we have, the speakers and the panelists, will share with us their individual imaginations and the
spark of magic to help us achieve our objectives. And that magic is what we call MOJO. Your mojo is power, your energy, and the force propelling you forward. To achieve that state of being, one must first discover their self-mojo. This is the first step in realizing the mojo of an entire nation. A convergence of individual mojo is what makes a collective mojo. It is in this instance that a nation transforms and strives to reach its greatest potential. When you understand all these factors and stack them up right, your quest beckons and your path is clear. You never need a reason to do the work. It becomes a labor of love. And that is when you know you have found your mojo and you are the driver of your own destiny. Mojo is revolutionary. It's what precipitates a leap from a modest family business to a multi-billion rupee enterprise. To find the mojo in companies, we must reconstruct the oldest and most common economic models of dynamic entrepreneurship with a view to induce positive change. We will identify the nature of positive change only when we step out of our monotonous routines and glean from past experiences. To achieve this, the will to fight off adversity and negativity becomes our most potent weapon. It is this fighting spirit we identify as our mojo. Similarly, in a business culture, achieving growth and sustainability is a confluence of talent, expertise, and most of all, a behavioral change that encourages the best in us. It is a perfectly choreographed tango between youthful exuberance and seasoned experience. It's where the future of mojo lies. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 40th National Conference of the Chartered Accountants.